Hello, I'm Dr. Jeremy Williams, Director of Advising for Gaston State Community College, coming to you from the quad on the Wallace Drive campus here in Gadsden. I want to make this video to help you to understand the advising process for our upcoming Cardinal Commit events. Some of you have done this before, and so this will not be anything new to you, although it can be a good refresher of the basics of what it means to advise, particularly on that day. For you who are new to this, I want to tell you that it's going to be exciting. It's going to be very fast paced, and you may not be able to answer every question that a student has, but that's okay. You do your best on that day, and we're going to provide the best quality care and customer service that we can to these students and help them to get registered for fall. So in this video, you're going to see me talking about the very basic understanding of advising, what to do, how to think about these things as you put together a schedule for these students on that day. So thank you very much for watching, and I hope you enjoy the video. As I stated, this is a video just to talk about the basics of advising for our upcoming Cardinal commits in 2025. These are the dates, and this is a clip from the press release a few weeks back of the upcoming Cardinal Commit events. Our first one is going to be on June 26th at Ayers in Anniston. And you see the preceding dates there as well. Also, be aware that we're going to have one on a Saturday, and that will be July 26th at the Wallace Drive campus. Some items to consider when you are putting together an advisement plan for a student. Uh, One thing, and we don't often think about this, but you need to be aware of the location of the course. If you have a student that you're working with on the Ayers campus, you need to make sure that they want to primarily take classes at Ayers. So when you fill out their schedule, uh, make sure that you're registering students for those classes at that location. So that goes for any other location as well. You want to make sure if they're taking in-person courses, they're not driving from campus to campus. Make sure that that is something that you are looking for when you are advising. Also, check for placement information and transcripts. You can go to the student's profile, have them sign in to their My Gaston State, look at the student profile, look at prior education and testing, make sure the transcripts are there. If they don't have transcripts appropriate, make sure they have the placement information they need in order to place them in the highest level math and English that they can get into, because we want to make sure that students start out on a great footing. So, ideally, a student should sign up for English 101 the first semester in order to complete the sequence of English 101, English 102, and if it is needed, that student may have to take two literatures, say if they are a business major, which prefers the student has two literatures. So, in order to fall, spring, 2 years to complete, that student needs to take English 101, English 102, American Lit 1, American Lit 2. So, consider placement when you are putting together a schedule. Also, remember time frames and progress. What do I mean by that? Understand that, particularly the academic portion of this is a 60-hour program. And so the student needs to average 15 hours per semester if they just go fall, spring, year one, year two. So they need to average 15 hours per semester. Yeah. Inevitably, you're going to have a student come to you and say, "Well, I only want to take 9 hours. That's all I can take." Well, at the end of the day, it is the student's right to do that. If they're paying out of pocket, particularly, they may not be able to afford but those 9 hours. But remind them, in order to make sufficient progress through these degrees, you're going to have to do it at a certain pace. If pace is not a problem for them, then that's okay. But if they have a mindset to go on, outline it for them what they're going to have to do. I'm going to look at the AS degree just to give you an understanding of this. And these are screenshots from our website and the catalog, looking at the AS degree. And there's division contact if you need it there. But I'm going to look at, of course, English 101, English 102. So every student going into this degree needs English 101, 102. That's why placement is so important, because we want them to have these as early as possible. So that area one, remember, it's the English and writing composition portion of their degree plan, and you want them to complete English 101 and English 102, because without these, they will not be able to make sufficient progress, much less graduate. So that first written composition comes up first. And so remember, they need to take these and take these early on if necessary, if at all possible, they need to. You may have a student that starts out in 098. So they want to, or have scored into English 098. Well, they need to take the English 098 before they can complete or even attempt English 101. So understand that, explain that to them so that they are not confused. Looking at the natural sciences, remember, we need to start these also as early as possible. Say you're working with a student and they are a engineering major. Well, you want to make sure that they get into Math 112 or higher, if possible, as soon as possible, because they're going to need um, to start math early, because essentially here, any 4-year engineering major is a math major, for all intents and purposes, because they're going to take a boatload of math here at Gadsden State. So the earlier, the better getting done with their, or getting started with their math sequence. And the higher we can go, the better to begin with. If we could start them out in Cal 1 for that fall semester, that would be great. But the higher we can go, the better. Natural sciences, of course, we need to have 8 hours of natural sciences with lab. This is not Bio 201 or Bio 202. Those are not natural sciences, or we do not consider those to be natural sciences. What are we talking about when we talk about natural science? Biology 103, 104, chemistry 104, 105, chem 111, 112, physical science, astronomy, geography. And that is the GO 101 and 102, not GO 100, which is a social behavioral science. So we want them to have a sequence, if at all possible. All majors do not require sequence, but up front, our goal is to have them have a sequence in natural science unless otherwise noted. Um, but to be safe, go for that sequence in natural science. If a student does not feel particularly strong in a natural science and they have a major that is different than a health science major, or they want to go on and do engineering, or something of that nature, say they're a business major. A business major may not want to take Bio 103 and 104 because they're not particularly strong in biology, and they don't necessarily have to have that for their major. So you can make a suggestion of maybe the geography 101, 102 online, and that will help them um, avoid the pitfalls of what they perceive as pitfalls for bio 103 and 104, and gets them their natural science requirement. So some things to consider when we're looking at the area 3 in that case. It should be in area 2, shouldn't it? Here's the area 2. The area 2 is humanities and fine arts. They'll need one literature, one pure fine art, meaning art appreciation, music appreciation, theater appreciation. One of those pure fine arts. I know we use that term lightly, but that is what we're talking about when we're talking about those fine art specific elective. And then they have alternative electives. They can have a humanities course that could be Humanities 101, Philosophy 206, a religion course, something of that nature. And also, they can have another one of those, or a speech for most majors will fit in that area 2 and the fourth required course down there. Now, understand if this person is a business major, they're going to need two literatures going in this instead of another humanities, most likely, or an extra fine art. So keep those things in consideration. We're trying to group these students by specific major, but sometimes it happens where you're working with a student who is outside of the major that you may teach as a faculty advisor. So keep those things in consideration as well. Of course, we have a social behavioral science with the history elective, history, social science, social behavioral science. Um, we have social behavioral science electives. Most people will have a sequence in history right here. So a sequence in history, because we'll either have a sequence in literature or a sequence in history. Most students will opt for the history sequence. So that will come into play here. Also, you have room for psychology, uh, another social behavioral science such as sociology. If they are a business major, their two electives, or excuse me, two economics courses are going to be here as well. So think about those when you plan out their schedule. Of course, we have the Area 5, which is the elective core. If you go into degree works, it does say concentrations. We don't use concentrations, but it outlines multiple electives, which are not generally electives. They are the courses that we want the student to take in order to be prepared for transferring. There are more transferring pathways that we are trying to get them to follow in order to be prepared moving forward. We have orientation listed here. If at all possible, our goal is to have the students signed up for orientation in their first semester. It doesn't always work, but our goal is to have them sign up for that in their first semester. Also, right now, we are still requiring CIS 146 as part of the graduation requirement for our institution. So we want the student to take CIS 146 in order to graduate with a Associates of Science or Associates of Arts degree, and then those classes. So say again, this student was a business major. Then classes such as Accounting 1, Accounting 2, Stats 1, Stats 2, Legal and Social Environment of Business would go here and would help fill up that Area 5 um, major, pre-major coursework. So keep that in mind as you are helping them to fill out their schedule. A little bit about orientation. This is snippets from our orientation policy in our college handbook. We do have times that are preview days, and we will be working a Cardinal Commit. I put this in here to remind you to remind the student that Cardinal Commit, although we use the terms orientation, it does not it is not sufficient for their orientation requirement. Because sometimes we'll have students say, well, I went to orientation. They went to Cardinal Commit. They need an orientation course. So we want to make sure we make that distinction between the two. And then here is our orientation course policy. Now, most students who are going to a Cardinal Commit, they may have a little dual enrollment credit, but most of the time they do not have what would exempt one from the orientation requirement. And here are the lists of exemptions from Orientation 101. So most of our students, the vast majority of them, will not meet these requirements. So we want to make sure we get them in an Orientation 101 at the beginning. If we could put together an ideal schedule for the student, first semester, fall semester, student never having taken another um, course at all, no dual enrollment, no nothing, coming in fresh, straight out of high school, ready to go. We want to make sure we get them into English 101. We want to make sure we get them in a math or science. We want to make sure we get a fine art or humanity or a social science, an elective major course, and orientation 101. So this is a good outline of what to be thinking about to get them. And you may add a course to this. You may subtract a course from this, depending on where the student is. Understand that to be full time, a student needs to be 12 hours or more in their schedule. And this affects our financial aid. If they receive financial aid, it definitely affects progress through the degree. But if we were thinking about an ideal schedule, this may be it. But not all things are ideal, but it's something to shoot for and to strive for. A note about tech and pre-health. With our technical programs, if you may be watching this and you may say, well, this is not relevant information to me at all. I am in the technical division. We always say, well, consult with a tech advisor or faculty advisor in that area. Maybe you're in the academic division and a student sits down in front of you and um, they were going to be civil engineering technology, but instead they got thrown into civil engineering. Well, we want to make sure that that student goes to where they need to be and the appropriate tech advisor and faculty advisor for that person. Um, but if you are and you're in the area of technical and you're working with a student, of course, the idea is to balance the academic courses with the technical courses. So we don't want to load a student up with all the academic coursework because we want to put them in those courses throughout their degree program. So we want to make sure we work those in and have the student make progress through that coursework that way instead of having all the academics up front. Well, the other area where all the academics up front kind of come into play is the pre-health science area. So we want to make sure we follow the prerequisite course outline. So if a student comes in and they're nursing, we want to make sure we're signing them up for those prerequisite courseworks prerequisite courses that they need in order to get into the program, and share with them some of the program requirements as well, like the ACT requirement that they're going to need. So, say if they were nursing, they would come in and they need to have an English 101 completed before they get into the program. They need to have Math 100 completed before they apply to the program, and the Bio 201 and Bio 202. Those are the classes, 4 classes, they absolutely need to have completed. There are other courses, such as a fine art or humanities, a speech, Psych 210, Bio 220, that it would be great for them to have completed, but they don't need to have those completed before they actually can apply and be accepted into the program. So follow the prerequisite course outline for the specific program, and then, of course, consult with the program director for specifics. Now, we can always go to the source of the information and the one who has the best information about their program. And I know that is the case for both the technical side and the health science side. The program directors, those who are over those programs, those are over those major areas, they love what they do. Not to say we all don't love what we do. We really love what they do, but the program directors, that is their heart. That's what they've done, and they are in that field. They are now instructing in that field, and so we want to make sure we consult with the program director. So if you walk in and there's a student there, and they're a radiography student, and Ashley Crucci's in the room, make sure that they contact and know who she is and who that program director is in it is, so that they can contact them and know them, because they'll be following up with them, and they'll be with them a good bit once they're in the program. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me if you have specific questions about advising. And so there is my contact information. And then also, if you have general questions about advising, there is the overall ARC email. You could reach any advisor with that, and also our general line for questions. Thank you for watching today, and let's just make this a wonderful time and really care for these students, and show them the best quality customer service we can.